This man in the black shirt who mouthed off, uttered the N-word, and spit on protesters at the University of California, Los Angeles has been identified. And he is a former boxer, plus part of this gym.
David, you have your own gym now, huh? Kaminsky Boxing?
The same last name.
Kaminsky, whose nickname is the Lion of Zion, is from Israel, but per BoxRec, lives in Tarzana, California, some 15 miles from UCLA's campus. Kaminsky has a 6-1 record and last fought in June of 2020. The boxer would be identified by Stop Arab Hate on Twitter, which led to him nuking not just his Instagram account, but his Instagram account for his business, Kaminsky Boxing, on the platform as well. Kareem Zidane, an independent journalist who also covers the intersection of sports and politics, wrote for his Substack Sports Politica, which you should definitely subscribe to, of the support Kaminsky has received. He was further recognized by Israeli MMA fighter Haim Ghazali, who expressed approval of Kaminsky's actions in a post on the app Telegram. Meanwhile, Ghazali himself has been garnering a ton of attention for inscribing the names of people he would consider, and only he would consider, adversaries. And he inscribed those on artillery shells destined for Gaza. My name was among those inscribed, Zidane wrote. Here is that photo, where it reads, F you bloody elbow, with the tweet directed at Zidane. The post has since been deleted. In this separate piece on Substack, Zidane type Ghazali, 50, is among Israel's best-known MMA fighters. His record is 15-6, including a 5-fight stint in Bellator. He also worked for Bellator as a promoter, scouting talent, and matchmaking fights during the organization's events in his home country. He also heads the Renzo Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Bat Yam. Ghazali, seen here, fought 5 times in Bellator, as we stated, and would go on to recruit talent while working for the company. And, well, he served in the IDF. Many know of Ghazali because outlets like Fox News have covered his escapades. Recently, he wrote the names of 4 Muslim UFC stars on bombs that would be sent to injure and kill. They are Khabib and Bilal Muhammad, to name a few. Here is that disgusting photo Ghazali took and posted on his social media. He would caption it with something so disgusting, I don't care to read it. Aviv Ghazali, Haim's son, and a fellow competitor with Bellator, aligns in complete agreement with his father's antics. He'd even comment of, with his words, Jewish power to the world. This is not helping. Khabib's cousin Usman clapped back with a comment of his own. Aviv currently has, for the record, the fastest submission in Bellator history. The bout took all of 11 seconds. From Zidane again. Ghazali, who has close ties to Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right government, continued to celebrate the killing of Palestinian civilians. Among his most sickening posts is a recent one featuring a picture of a dead Palestinian baby being wrapped in a white cloth before burial. Ghazali posted the picture alongside a second photo of another child with a caption that would accompany it. I found his brother for sale for only 216 shekels, for those who are interested, laughing emoji. On the Kaminsky front, in a video we simply cannot show, but if you want to see the footage, it is readily available online. Rapper turned boxer Blueface was stabbed at a boxing gym. That place of business was David Kaminsky's. Ellie Seckbach reported Kaminsky was training Blueface at the time. He would go on to defeat Ed Matthews in an exhibition on April the 21st in the year 2023. Zidane then brings it full circle in his Sports Politica write-up. While Kaminsky has not been seen since being caught on camera hurling racial slurs, the UCLA Gaza Solidarity Encampment continues to face various acts of aggression. Truthout reported that pro-Israeli protesters were hurling fireworks at the structure and beating demonstrators as campus security and city police stood by. Such inaction from UCLA and local police contrasts sharply with the fierce crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrations at universities across the country, including Columbia, NYU, and others, as police have arrested hundreds upon hundreds of students. He would end as I watched footage of heavily armed police officers descend on peacefully protesting students and professors across university campuses in the U.S., the so-called land of the free, home of the brave. I could not help but see a place that was neither free nor brave. Instead, all I saw was a country so consumed by tribalism that it was happy to cheer on state repression and police brutality if it meant silencing their perceived enemies, even if those enemies were mere students. If you can, please do support us here at TYT Sports. Become a channel member. Go to youtube.com/TYT Sports and click the join button, and or go to TYT.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate all the love. At Ole Miss, a mob of white students mock demeaned and monkey chanted at a black woman. It has an eerie feeling of the 1960s. These are the faces of maintaining the status quo.
Lizzo, 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 Lizzo. You bet. You. And you.
For the record, are these the kids Kevin O'Leary was talking about protecting and promoting in their career endeavors? The irony, they claim to support that state, that country, yet throw their weight behind an anti-Semite.
I have to press you on it a little bit. Just to ask if the president, if your uncle was an exception to that in your family, or if you ever heard him express either use anti-Semitic slurs or the N-word or other racist slurs or other sentiments like that. Or do you mean this was an ambient thing in your family, but you can't say that you ever heard it from him, or did you hear it from him too?
Oh, yeah, of course I did. And I don't think that should surprise anybody given how virulently racist he is today.
Have you heard the president use the N-word?
Yeah.
And anti-Semitic slurs specifically?
Yes.
Incredible stupidity in the form of bigotry. We know from unsealed classified documents the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, not Palestine. But to these racist morons, it's all the same. The pictures are depressing, the scene's disappointing. What's even more saddening is the green light being given by elected officials like Rep. Mike Collins of Georgia. He saw the video of racist white students monkey chanting and body shaming a black woman and captioned it, and I quote, "Ole Miss taking care of business." Of course, what he does not want you to know, via journalist Ashton Pittman, is Collins' stamp of approval in aligning with far-right figures. Let's just do a quick side-by-side to show history repeating itself, shall we? 2024 sees a group of white college-age men talking down to a person who's protesting against the atrocities taking place, akin to the 1960s. And what we saw there, eerily similar. Via the Clarion Ledger, who have done great work, approximately 50 to 60 protesters gathered in response to what has taken place. And the location was the quad of the Ole Miss campus. The event would quickly escalate with more than 200 counter-protesters flooding in from different parts of campus within an hour and starting to throw objects and shout at the protesters. They would say the T word repeatedly with the white crowd. A student would tell the paper, "We're here to spread the message of peace. Save Christians in Gaza. Save churches, mosques, people." I mean, what's the point of the counter-protesters being here? They're pro-Trump. They're not even pro-Israel. I'm not sure they know where it is. They can't even point to it on a map. Embarrassingly, one counter-protester held up a shirt that read, "I heart Israel," in colorful paint. The counter-protester identified himself as Ben Holberg and said he's a student at Mississippi State University and drove in for the protest. Yet after saying he is a student at Mississippi State University, Holberg changed his story and said, no, he's a student at the University of Georgia. Trevor Leahy, a 21-year-old business major, spoke with Mississippi Today and said, quote, "We were going to go to the pool, but then we heard this was going to happen, so we were like, F that. We're going to come over here and counter it." Leahy, a frat bro, would go on to say, "I don't care that much. I just don't want them to encamp on my school. It looks ugly. I'm paying for them to be here." From the writer/reporter Molly Minta, the protesters were not setting up camp. They wouldn't speak to a reporter beyond a statement they had prepared, but Mississippi Today couldn't obtain it by press time. Here's my question for the frat guy. He's paying for the protesters? Who is he, Bill Ackman? These protests are protected under the same thing that if you ask this pro-Trump mob if they believe in the Constitution, they will unequivocally say yes. So my question is, why? Why must it be constitutionality for me, not for thee? And we have seen this with many Trump supporters who claim that they are evangelicals, and it will be, well, I live by my holy scripture, but there's always a but of deciphering between, well, I don't agree with that, but I agree with this, and I live by this, and I live by all of it. But it's just frustrating. Also, and I'm about to show you something of a previous clip we did of Governor Ross Barnett, James Meredith, and the history of protests that took place on this campus. You know,
it's 8 o'clock. Just as the president went on the air, Ole Miss turned into a battlefield. Very few people heard the president's words.
This is a story of the Deep South, segregation, civil rights, and basketball.
Laws and not of men, no man, however prominent or powerful, and no mob, however unruly or boisterous, is entitled to defy a court of law. If this country should ever reach the point where any man or group of men, by force or threat of force, could long deny the commands of our court and our Constitution, then no law would stand free from doubt. No judge would be sure of his writ, and no citizen would be safe from his neighbors.
In June 1962, a United States Court of Appeals ordered the University of Mississippi to admit James Meredith. It would take numerous attempts that year before the 29-year-old Air Force veteran and Mississippi native would become the first black student at Ole Miss.
If you'd like to see the full clip, check it out on demand. I end with this. I see POTUS giving speeches that really upset me, where he continues to lose the plot and not see it. And what he's not seeing is the power of protest and demonstrations. The same things that he is saying are what Martin Luther King warned of, which was the white moderate, because that's exactly what he is. He put forth the crime bill. He has aligned with others who have demeaned, talked down to, and imprisoned innocent people. He has been wrong on so many different issues. And if the Dems want to lose in November, they will continue with this guy. They will lose. And their whole argument is, well, what's the alternative? You should be earning our votes. The corporatists should not say, this is who we're putting in. And that is why the political system is completely broken. On top of this, Joe saying, I don't agree with the protests and they're violent. When the cops show up, they're violent. These are kids who feel like in their right, their constitutionally protected right, they have a right to protest, and that is under attack because of what is going on that they don't agree with across the seas. Well within their right. And I have seen this rhetoric over and over through the history books, that first off, the police do not make them safe. The police have incited violence and also stood by when others have thrown fireworks, stink bombs, what have you, in the encampments. Yet, through the civil rights movement, through the sit-ins, through the women's suffrage movement, over and over we always hear about, not the right time, don't protest, taking it too far. It's not what a protest is. A protest is supposed to make you uncomfortable. A protest is supposed to disrupt the norm, because the norm that we're living right now is not sustainable for everyone. If you want to have peace, liberty, and justice for all, that should be a sweeping conclusion across the board. It shouldn't just be for some. And yet that's exactly what we're seeing. It is shameful, and I am flat out ashamed of what we are seeing.
Tell that Bobby Cannon, he's a victim weight.
It all started with this Snapchat video directed at high school basketball star Bobby Cannon. A standout at Forsyth Country Day School, Cannon has big dreams of taking his basketball career to new heights. The student who made the comments was enrolled at Greensboro Day School. Cannon is set to play basketball at the University of New Orleans in the fall. Tish Levatt would recap the events on Facebook, describing what her nephew went through. On Friday evening, FCDS visited Greensboro Day School, GDS, where they played a thrilling game that went into overtime. FCDS came out with a hard-fought win with a final score of 76-71. After the customary handshake from the teams, everyone departed ways, leaving everything on the court, or so we thought. Soon after the game was over, Bobby and his family received the video attached from GDS's basketball manager. Now, if you've ever attended or watched a basketball game, you know there's back and forth trash talking between both teams, but this goes far beyond the friendly rivalry banter on the court. The basketball manager had someone record him to send Bobby Cannon a message. All parties are on the clock now. Is this the way a young black man should be treated because he's great at what he does? It's sad that in these days we are still enduring this type of hate simply because of the color of our skin. She'd conclude her post as follows. Now make no mistake about it. Although hurtful, this message that had clear ill intentions will not keep Bobby down. For like the phoenix, he will rise and put it down on the basketball court once again. Catlett, meanwhile, would tell WXII-12 in another statement, both the student in the video and his family have asked that I share with our community their heartfelt remorse and regret for the hurt those words have caused. Forsyth Country Day School's Director of Marketing and Communications, Beth Mack, would add, Bobby Cannon has shown poise and maturity in the face of inexcusable hate speech directed against him by a student at another school. The Forsyth Country Day School community stands against racism in all forms. After the two schools competed, Cannon was sent the video from his friends, and he was simply shocked at what he saw. Cannon would say that sure, the games can get hostile and rough, but it does not reach this level of racism. Lastly, from Hopper, I'm an emotional person. I was furious to know that we're still dealing with this, and like I said, it hits differently when it's your family. All right, before we get into it, if you can, please do become a channel member at youtube.com/TYT Sports. Just click the join button, why don't you? And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love all around. The reason I feel these stories are important to cover is one, we have seen the destruction and decay of local journalism and local stories, more importantly, which I still truly value, because local media is the watchdog that is ever so needed, especially during these times. And because of billionaires who align with right-wing politics and even further to the right, they have spearheaded this destruction, along with various other variables, like having an oversaturation of media, and or depending on certain people when they go and do, for example, a YouTube channel, a Substack, what have you. But still, local stories are the backbone of our society. The second is, and we've seen this so many times over now, is no matter the state as well, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, there are so many who abuse their own social media pages, and they truly do believe that there are going to be no repercussions. Inside of the story, we heard from Mr. Cannon's family that this was allegedly a manager on the opposing team and someone was filming him. It honestly looked like the phone was down near a cup holder in a car. Nonetheless, that student was not welcome back to that institution, which is a step in the right direction. The bigger problem is the fact that we have in this country an allowance, and for many in society, an acceptance for this behavior when it should never get to that point. We are living in these times where they have rolled back, the Supreme Court has rolled back affirmative action, and now they're using folks who are anti this, DEI, as a slur. So when all of this is snowballing, there are going to be high school kids like this who see those actions and believe that they are in the right when they are certainly not. I wish Mr. Cannon the best of success at the University of New Orleans. He has an incredible story. All credit to Spectrum News. They covered this really well, quite honestly. And they also told the story about his dad, who sadly passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease. Can't relate. I had a family member who passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease. And Mr. Cannon was talking about how his dad influenced him and the words that he had for him to remain courageous, ambitious, goal-oriented, and to continue pushing. And I hope he does just that and absolutely crushes as he continues his basketball career.